They sent me 2 cameras because literally they wanted me to do this. In the road, still recording. Hi, it's me. And they specifically said you should do a durability test. So lens looks good. It's dirty, but it doesn't seem to be any worse for wear. Asking me to take their camera and throw it off a moving motorcycle on a gravel road, to me, screams what the kids call BDE. I'll let you look it up. When the Insta360 Ace Pro came out, I was a little butthurt that I wasn't contacted and asked to do a review because I really wanted to get my hands on that camera. I came very close to just ordering one for myself, and in the nick of time, Insta360 reached out and asked me if I wanted to check it out and offered to sponsor this review video. So this video is sponsored by Insta. So far, I'm very impressed by this camera. Let me tell you why. First, the specs and stats of the Insta360 Ace Pro. It has a 1/1.3 inch sensor, which is larger than most other action cameras on the market, and a lens co-engineered with Leica. It'll go up to 4K 120 frame per second video. It has PureVideo mode, which is a low light enhancing mode, which is really cool and works great and blows other action cameras out of the water in low light situations. Active HDR, which uses AI to maintain contrast when different areas of your shot have different amounts of light. It has a 2.4 inch flip screen that is the biggest screen of any action camera on the market, and it can be used facing you at a 90-degree angle or on the back of the camera and everywhere in between, allowing you to get a ton of different shots. It has AI Highlights Assistant, which you just tell it you want it to pay attention basically while you're doing your filming. It will automatically flag highlights for you to quickly and easily review on the app or on your computer afterward. It has gesture and voice control, so you can tell it to start or stop recording if you have that feature enabled. And you can also hold up a hand with either an open palm, which I'm not going to do because it'll stop recording, or 2 fingers to take a picture. If you don't have a remote or you don't want to buy a remote, you can still control your camera from elsewhere because you can use gestures to control it. It's a cool feature. The camera is waterproof to 10 meters and has Insta360's FlowState stabilization and horizon lock features. So in their words, this camera is designed for athletes, adventurers, adrenaline junkies and travelers, content creators, videographers and photographers, and people with high expectations of what an action camera can capture, how easy it should be to film, edit, and share. I will say that nowadays that this is my job, I think I'm all 3 of those things, or at least I'm an adventurer, a content creator, and someone who has high expectations for an action camera, and on all 3 scores, I've been impressed with this camera. So that's the overview. Great. Is it good? Let's talk about the pros, the things I like about this camera. There's a lot of things. One of my favorite things, little touches that is super great for me as a motorcycling content creator, is that this camera vibrates when you turn it on and off, when you start and stop recording. So when I'm riding at speed, I can't hear the beeps when I turn my camera on and off. So I spend a lot of time kind of ducking over. You can see it in shots sometimes, looking in my rearview mirror to make sure the light is on the camera. This thing vibrates. I can feel and hear that vibration at any speed, so I know I'm definitely recording and getting the shot. That is cool. It has crazy good battery life. So I tested this at 4K 30 and I got an hour and 35 minutes of shooting. Just to compare that to some of the competitors I've done that same test with, the GoPro got me an hour and 23 minutes. That's the Hero 12. And the Osmo Action 4 got me an hour and 42 minutes. So it's right in the middle of the 2. And there's some variation in there from temperature and charge levels and blah, 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 blah. So they're all pretty close, the GoPro being the worst in terms of battery life. But that's enough battery life for me to shoot for half a day without having to swap my camera battery, because I don't film constantly. And even if I were, it's still going to get me, you know, 2 to 3 times as much recording as I would have gotten before. With this camera, I can film all morning, stop at lunch or whatever, swap my battery and film the rest of the day. No need to constantly have that anxiety about my camera dying and not getting the footage I think I'm recording. The picture is excellent. It's amazing. It's noticeably better than other cameras I've used. And one thing I really like about Insta360 is they really seem to care about motorcycling content creators in particular. We've often felt like, you know, the black sheep of the family are an afterthought to many manufacturers, and Insta is out there making motorcycle specific accessories. They have an Insta360 helmet mount. They have a ton of mounting options for crash bars and parts of the motorcycle. They have ND filters, cheap mic adapters. You can mount this camera vertically. You can add a cold shoe to it. There's a ton of little just nuances and considerations for content creators and motorcycling content creators in general. It makes me happy to be in the Insta360 ecosystem because there's a lot of good stuff that's actually useful. Their mic adapters are inexpensive, unlike certain other companies that want to charge $180 or more for that. And it's a good enough camera, in my opinion, that you can do all your filming on and off the bike. I've filmed several videos with it. I filmed the snow camping video entirely on that. I filmed all the 300L mods video entirely on this camera, and everything you're seeing in this video is filmed on this camera. I'm looking at it right now. The low light performance is astounding compared to other action cameras. Generally, when you get into a dusky type setting, it's essentially dark. Like, you have to run a light to get any footage to show up on your action camera. This thing with the bigger sensor plus the PureVideo mode means you can record in low light situations without additional lights, and you can still see what's happening. And that is huge for an action camera, particularly if you are filming trips and using it as your only camera. The flip up screen is super cool, particularly when you're talking to it or using it as a B camera on your motorcycle. You can see the whole shot, how it's framed very clearly. The GPS remote, which is a separate purchase, but if you use it and you record with it, it'll automatically record GPS data like speed, your track, your elevation, things like that. And then if you go into the app, either on your computer or on your phone, you can add that to your footage, which looks really cool. Other cool features, cancel recording. So if you start recording a clip and you're like, this is garbage, or I didn't get the shot I wanted, you can just hold down the button and it will ask if you want to delete that clip, and it's not there taking up space on your card and in your way when you're editing. Same thing with pause recording. So if like something was happening right now, I could hit the pause button on the screen of this camera and it would stop recording. I could take care of whatever it is and then hit it again and it would start recording as part of the same file. It's little things like that that make it easier to edit, that cut out time in the editing room, and I think that's just, again, just a neat testament to how they actually are thinking about the needs of content creators. It has face detection, so right now there's a little box around my face, and as I move, it'll make sure that my face stays in focus, just like a fancy or nice big camera, and also that the contrast is good and that I'm well lit in my face area. So it can detect human faces, which is cool. There's a big indicator light on the front, giant flashing red bar that makes it easier to see when I am checking in my rearview mirror or whatever, and there's no cutoff on the length of your files. So most action cameras cut off. Some of them are like 12 or 18 minutes. Sometimes it's 30. This one, it will record until the battery dies. So that's great for editing purposes because you're not trying to stitch a bunch of files together. It's great because there's no pause when it switches from one file to the other, which you sometimes get. There are a few disadvantages, like if that file gets corrupted, well, there goes your whole video, but that doesn't happen or hasn't happened to me yet, so I'm not gonna not utilize it based on might happen. It also has background downloading, so you can tell it to start downloading footage to your phone and then do something else on your phone. You don't have to keep the app open. That's a new feature. So that's a ton of cool features and a ton of cool things I like about this camera, but it's not perfect, so there's a few things I don't like about it. Here are the cons. There's a lot of camera here, a lot of features, more than some creators will ever use. For instance, I didn't even mention the AI art overlay thing that it does, where it'll like add an AI artistic theme to whatever it is you're filming, so like cyberpunk or something. That's not something I'm ever going to use, but there it is. It exists if you want it, and I think there's a lot of features like that that maybe not every content creator will use. I didn't find the AI highlights feature super intuitive in terms of what it picks out, but admittedly I've only used it on a kind of mundane ride. I'm going to guess that if I was crashing and doing weird stuff, it would pick that up, so we'll keep playing with it. But for now, I just didn't think it pulled out anything that was particularly interesting. Some features like the GPS overlay require an additional editing step, so you've got to open that footage in the app either on the computer or on your phone, and then export it with the overlay, and then you can use it in Premiere or whatever. So that's annoying, but it's the same as editing 360 footage where you have to go in, pick your shot, export that, and then put that in Premiere and edit it. So it's another step in your workflow, but it's the only way to get the overlay and cool stuff like that. It's bulkier and heavier than most action cameras, largely because of the giant screen and the bigger lens. There's no built-in mount like the GoPro Hero 12, so you have to use the quick release mount. It makes it easy to use it as one camera for your whole trip, so if you're like swapping from your helmet to your tripod and back, or A to B camera, whatever, but it also means you need to buy a mount for each of those locations. It's the most expensive action camera on the market right now, $450. These are Amazon prices as of today. The Ace, the lower spec version of the same camera, is $380. The One RS 4K edition is $240. The twin edition of the One RS, that's the one that has the 360 camera and the 4K camera, it's modular, that's $440. The Hero 12 Black is $350 and the Osmo Action 4 is $300. So it's a more expensive camera, but you do get more for your money. I did kind of struggle to get the sound set up correctly with this camera. I fought it for a while, multiple things. I finally realized the problem was the mic I was using, the old standby Purple Panda mic. So when I swapped it to a different microphone, suddenly I wasn't having the peaking issues. And this camera does have negative gain control, a negative gain adjustment, so you can tweak and make that sound work for you, even when you're using a helmet camera with the mic like an inch from your mouth. There is some tweaking required, and you may have noticed some bad or crappy audio in earlier videos, and that was before I swapped the mic out. So what's the bottom line on the Insta360 Ace Pro? Well, overall, it's the best action camera I've ever used. Others are close in terms of picture quality and battery life, but lack the extra features that this camera has. Until now, all action cameras have seemed the same, with a few notable exceptions like the Insta360 RS, the modular setup. That's a different idea. This one really seems to have been designed with content creators in mind rather than for action sports primarily and content creation as a secondary thought. Motorcycle content in particular has always felt like an afterthought or the black sheep of the family, with limited solutions that required you to shoehorn together to make something work for your setup. Like, I used to have to run external batteries all the time, and it was uncomfortable, made my helmet heavier, one more thing to deal with, keeping charged, whatever, and this camera solves a lot of those issues, I feel like, and has accessories that help solve those issues that are made for it, rather than you repurposing something that's not really designed for what you're doing. For years, it's felt like I've been trying to stick a round peg in a GoPro-shaped hole. Action cameras were simply not designed for what I've tried to do, and that is both helmet cam and filming off the bike, and I've just had to make them work, and the results have been less than stellar in some cases. This camera is awesome at everything and doesn't require the sacrifices and compromises like bad picture quality, bad audio, expensive third-party solutions, external batteries, stuff like that I've dealt with in the past. If you're a content creator or an aspiring content creator, this can truly be your one camera solution. I've used action cams for this in the past, but you could always tell because of the picture compromises. This one can go from your helmet to a tripod at camp to the garage and everywhere in between, and the picture is always pretty damn good. It's a little more expensive, but I really do feel like you get what you pay for, and I think you're gonna see this camera on my helmet quite a bit going forward. So thanks once again to Insta360 for sponsoring this video. I'm always happy to review products that I genuinely enjoy. If you've used the Ace Pro, please let us know your experiences in the comments, and I'll link all the stuff I've talked about in this video so you can go check it out for yourself down in the description. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.